Hello, this is Chuck Ridgway, Automation Technology Manager at Horner. Thanks for joining us for another Tuesday live stream. Well, today I'm back from the field and I've got a great topic for you. Here it is. Upgrading your application to Canvas. Now, there are literally tens of thousands of Horner OCS units in the field, and I know there's a lot of existing customers out there who are using some older products that are thinking, ooh, some of these new products look pretty good. I'd like to upgrade, but I wonder how much effort it's going to take. So today's show is for you. We think you're going to find that the upgrade procedure is pretty darn easy. You'll have a good understanding of about how much effort it's going to take. And let's just get right to it and break down the topic. We're going to start today by a quick review of the Canvas OCS. What are its advantages and why might you want to upgrade? Then we're going to go through kind of the standard upgrade procedure that most of you can use to upgrade to Canvas, pretty much all of you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the optional upgrades that you can make if you choose. Different things such as, switching your logic style, basically implementing WebMI, implementing some push protocols, all those sort of optional upgrades. We're going to talk about those as well. All right, let's get started. So what is Canvas OCS? Well, Canvas is our top-of-the-line, most powerful all-in-one controller from Horner Automation, and it has several differentiators versus our other product families. So it has the most advanced graphics that we offer in any of our products. Also, it's the only product so far that has a dual-core microprocessor. So what does that mean? It means in the processor itself, there's one core that's dedicated to logic and networking, and another core that's dedicated to graphics. So no matter how fancy you get with your graphics or what you do on the screens, you're going to have fast, consistent scan rates. Also, Canvas includes a lot of other features that might be available in other series, but you have to pay extra for those through a one-time upgrade, whereas they come included or pre-licensed in Canvas. So lots of additional features, and we're going to talk about those as we go. Okay, so why might you upgrade to Canvas? Well, first of all, it's priced very comparably to the original XL series and also to XL Prime. So you're not making a huge financial investment to upgrade to the latest and greatest. Also, the basic upgrade procedure, which we're going to demonstrate for you today, is quite simple and really it's pretty low risk. Okay, there's testing involved, of course. You always test anytime you make changes in your machine logic. However, it is a quite simple process and we think you'll consider it pretty low risk. Also, the other reasons to upgrade are some of those included features. The superior graphics tools, the best graphics we offer in any OCS. If you're an IEC user, we have some enhancements to IEC that you could take advantage of. We'll talk about those a little bit later. If you have never used WebMI and you want to take advantage of it, a WebMI license or WebMI capability is built right into Canvas. If you happen to be an Ignition user or another user of software which interfaces with MQTT Sparkplug, which is kind of the latest industrial push protocol, Canvas has that protocol included. And maybe if you want to push data, but you want to push it to the Horner cloud, Canvas supports that as well, having the ability to push to the OCS 360 cloud service built in, although you will still have to subscribe to one of the data plans with OCS 360. Okay, so today what we're going to demonstrate is we're going to focus on an upgrade from the traditional XL series to Canvas. Now, why are we focusing there? Well, because there are literally tens of thousands of units in the field and thousands of different applications where the XL series is currently in service. So it's probably the most common upgrade path for current Horner customers. But it's not the only upgrade path, so don't despair. If you don't have a XL series unit and you're looking to do an upgrade, you will be able to do it. Whether it's going from a micro OCS all the way up to Canvas, going from a small, let's say, a QX unit from back in the day up to a larger screened unit today, or vice versa, a larger screen in the QX, smaller screen with Canvas. You remember, anytime you do a Horner upgrade, you can always reuse your logic. You can usually reuse your I/O map. Usually the new I/O pattern matches the old one. Not always. You may have to do some remapping. And then you can often reuse your screens. Okay, not always, because you might be going from a text-based OCS, for instance. But you often can reuse your screens as well. So at Horner, we pride ourselves in giving our customers upgrade options, whether your machine is 5 years old or 25 years old. Okay, let's get back refocused on today's procedure, and that is upgrading from the XL series to Canvas. All right, the first step is to select a model. Now on the left there, I'm showing you the 4 most common models in the XL series: the XL4, EXL6, EXLW, XL7, and EXL10, all right? And on the right, I'm showing you the closest matches for those models in the Canvas series. Now you'll notice that 3 of them have really a direct correlation, a direct match. The sizes are the same, the pixel patterns are the same. So that's the XL4 to the Canvas 4, EXLW to the Canvas 7, and XL7 to the Canvas 7D. And a couple of the models in the XL series don't have a direct representation, and that's because we've replaced the EXL6, for instance, with a traditional 7-inch model. And we've replaced the EXL10 with the Canvas 10D, which is a 10-inch unit, but it's widescreen with a different pixel pattern. Okay, now those, you can still overcome the fact that the pixels don't match exactly. We'll show you how that happens. Okay, the next step is always to back up your file, right? The Cscape file you have that's running on your existing machine, you always want to make a copy of that before you start the upgrade procedure, always, okay? And then when you open that file in Cscape 10, you'll probably be prompted to back it up again, just because we think it's really important that you do that step. Always want to make sure you have options to go backwards if necessary, and that means having a secure original file. Okay, the first step, the next step I should say, because technically I guess this is step 3, but it's the first step within Cscape, is that you're going to just go to the hardware configuration and change from your current model over to the Canvas model. Okay, so you'll change series from, in this case, XL or XL Prime to Canvas, and then you'll go and select the size that you want. Now, Cscape 10 will automatically select the direct replacement size if there is a direct replacement. If there isn't, for instance, going from a EXL6 to a Canvas 7, then you'll manually have to select the size and the device type in your hardware configuration. Okay, now once you've done that, if you don't have a pixel for pixel match between your original XL unit and your Canvas unit, you will be prompted to basically tell Cscape if you want it to resize and reposition the objects on your screens. Okay, and generally I would say yes, you're usually going to be better off opting in for that. Otherwise, you may have to go through, well, you probably will want to go through and manually change everything. And I would suggest allow Cscape to do its job, and then we can do some tweaking later. So once the conversion has been done, if it was needed, okay, then we can do some tweaking. Now, this is what things look like if you opt out of the conversion. On the left, I'm showing basically a EXL10 screen, and on the right I'm showing a Canvas 10D screen. And you can see there's a lot of white space there. That's because we didn't automatically resize and reposition. However, if we would have chosen the resize option by opting in, then you can see that things fill the screen, and while there's some tweaking that needs to be done, it looks pretty good. And then on the next screen, I'm showing you the next step, which is to go through and tweak your screens manually. So for things that didn't exactly translate perfectly, you'll want to go through and just tweak things a little bit. It's only going to take you, on average, a minute or 2 per screen. Now we get into the optional steps. So at this stage, we're pretty much done. If all you want to do is a basic conversion from XL series over to Canvas, you are pretty much done. The next things we're going to talk about are all the different optional steps you can take if you choose, all right? The first one is to switch from register-based to variable-based advanced ladder. Okay, if your program is already register-based and you're interested in converting it to variable-based, you can do that. Cscape 10 has a conversion option included inside the Project Navigator menu. So we're going to demonstrate that today. So you don't have to start from scratch if you want to go from register-based to variable-based. The next optional step would be for those of you who are IEC programmers. Your original program, let's say, is in IEC. you've got the ability, if you choose, to go to Enhanced IEC, and in that case, you get some extra functionality in Cscape 10 with Canvas. You'll get faster scan rates with more memory and larger program sizes supported. You'll get advanced debugging tools like single stepping and breakpoints. You'll have the ability to simulate your program without a controller, and you'll get exception handling. The one thing to keep in mind is, if you've got an IEC program that's doing a lot of manual register mapping, that is not supported in Enhanced IEC. So you'll have to make program changes to overcome that manual memory mapping that you might be doing to do some programming shortcuts. So that's one little caveat I wanted to mention. So another reason or another optional upgrade there. Okay, another optional step is to fully take advantage of Canvas graphics by redrawing some of your screens, utilizing the advanced graphics capability with Canvas. That's a little more of an investment, right, to redraw your screens, but maybe it's not. Maybe you don't have that many screens, or maybe it's really important that you have a more modern look to your machine, so you're going to spend the effort to go ahead and redraw the screens. But at least, even though you're redrawing your screens, you're starting with your logic, which is a big deal. The next optional step is to take advantage of WebMI. Maybe you didn't have the option of doing WebMI before with your Excel series product. If it's one of the original Excel series, that's absolutely true. And now you can use WebMI, all right? And it's included for free, right? So you can have full remote monitoring and remote control and take advantage of the WebMI license that's built right into Canvas. The next optional step is using MQTT Sparkplug. And the reason you'd want to do that is if you happen to be using some industrial software that supports the ability to push data to that software via MQTT Sparkplug. And that, again, is a protocol that's built right into the Canvas OCS. And then finally, taking advantage of OCS 360, okay? So with OCS 360, you can push data to the cloud, creating dashboards, alarms, and notifications. You can log that data for future use, whether it's, AI, machine learning, or something of that nature in the future. And we're getting ready here later in 2025, actually this summer, to add remote access capability to OCS 360 as well. So you can remotely access your OCSs from Cscape to do troubleshooting and program changes and those sorts of things. Now, even though support for OCS 360 is built into Canvas, you'll still have to subscribe to a data plan for each Canvas unit that you're going to use, and those start at $250 per year for 250 variables per minute. Quite a bit of data there. Next, we're going to demonstrate for you what an upgrade might look like from Excel series to Canvas. Okay, let's go ahead and demonstrate doing an upgrade. What I have here is the logic for a filler machine that was originally created for a text-based OCS 25 years ago. It was upgraded about 15 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, to a XL6. I think it was an EXL6 actually. So that's a 640 by 480 screen. And now we're going to demonstrate how we could upgrade it the rest of the way up to Canvas. Okay. So here's my program. You can see there are about a dozen screens or so, okay, that are part of this program, and there are a couple of logic routines as well, okay? And you can also tell that it has been written in register-based logic. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to upgrade to Canvas by changing the hardware configuration. So I go to hardware configuration. You can see it's on Excel OCS series right now. We're going to switch this to Canvas. Now, after we switch to Canvas, the next step is to select the appropriate size that we want. Now, the most direct conversion for the EXL6, which was 640 by 480 5.7-inch display, would probably be the 7-inch model, or the Canvas 7, okay? And we'll go ahead and select that. We'll hit OK. All right. So next question that comes up is, do you want to resize and reposition the objects and their fonts proportionately? Yes or no? So this is where you decide, okay, do I want it to resize things for me or not? I'm going to go ahead and say yes here. All right. And that's done. All right. Now, the next step is always to go through your screens and to tweak anything that needs to be tweaked. And almost always there's going to be something, okay? And we'll see it quickly here on this particular screen. Okay, so a couple things you've noticed. These objects right here, okay, they aren't lined up properly with the large font there, okay? There we go, that's better. Okay, and let's fix this one. All right, and let's fix this one. All right. Okay, so, and I'll go ahead and stretch this one a little bit. All right, so that's much better. Now let's get them lined up here. All right, we're a little off on our sizing. All right, probably because the grid settings were different on the last unit. So this is really the kind of just tweaking. It's not difficult, just a little bit of tweaking that you may need to do on some of your objects, okay? And then this particular indicator here, the land part is cut off. So we needed to tweak that around a bit as well. So, you know, that took me a couple minutes to go through. Let's go to the next screen. The next screen actually looks pretty good. We could choose to make these fonts, that font bigger if we'd like. Again, we have this same, we're gonna have this land indicator on every screen. So that'll be something we'll wanna change, okay, on every screen. But again, this, as you can see, it pretty much gets most of it right at the beginning. It's really just a matter of tweaking to get things to look just the way you want. And of course, we're not taking advantage of Canvas graphics here. We're just directly converting over to really basic data objects and those sorts of things. So over the process of tweaking these screens, you know, I would guess that on this project, you know, I'm not going to record the whole thing. It'll probably take me, 15 minutes or so to go through and just clean things up so they look pretty decent for these dozen or so screens. So maybe a minute or so per screen, somewhere in that range. So, and that's pretty typical, I would say, for most conversions, maybe a minute or two per screen to kind of clean things up. Okay, so the basic conversion is now done. Okay, so we've taken our program, which was originally developed for an EXL6, we've converted it over to a Canvas 7. It basically converted everything pretty much automatically. Of course, we had plenty of tweaking to do with the screens, which I demonstrated as well. Now, if we wish, there's lots of other upgrades we could perform. And one that we could perform would be to convert from register-based logic to variable-based logic. Well, how would we do that? Okay, we've got a whole video on that, but I'll just at least show you the basics of that. So let's go here. We're going to highlight in the navigator our program at the top level here. Right click, and down here we have convert to variable based. Okay. All right. Press the start button. It asks for a name. Okay. So let's call this filler machine. It suggests a name. Filler machine VBAL is what I'm going to call this. I'll hit save. So it automatically saves it to a new name. All right. And it shows us, as you can see on the screen, its progress. Okay, and it tells us what the logic size was before and what the logic size was after. And the big difference is it's created variable names, and that's now part of the program, so it's increased the program size. But still plenty of open space in the program. Okay, so now if we look at this ladder logic here, you can see it's now variable based, okay? And any variables which were, any registers I should say, which had IO names to them, their new variable name is whatever the IO name was, okay? And if you didn't label the specific variable, you just left it as a register, for instance, then you're going to get kind of standardized variable names. Let's take a quick look at that right now. As you can see, I'm going to pull up the program variable table, look at the global variable table. As we scroll down here, you can see all these, you know, traditional variable names. But then when we go a little further, we can see for any variable that was not documented, you know, it didn't have a corresponding IO name, it's going to create a default variable name for that. So we've got a whole video on doing conversions, but usually what I recommend is go through and make sure your program is very well documented. You know, name as many of those registers as you can, you know, before you go through the process and do the conversion. Okay, so that was an optional step that we selected to go to variable based. And now from this point forward, if I were to modify this program, add variables, those sorts of things, I get the benefits of variable based programming. I can use arrays, I can name I can just name variables without having to map every single one. Obviously, we've talked at length on this channel about the benefits of variable-based programming, both variable-based advanced ladder as well as IEC. Okay, so that's the basics of doing a program conversion from an Excel series product up to a Canvas. That does it for today's topic. Don't forget, sign up for training. We've got one more class in the second quarter, and if that doesn't work for you, we have a basic and an advanced course in the fourth quarter that you can sign up for now on our website. If you missed us in Detroit last week, you're still going to have plenty of opportunity throughout the summer and fall to interact with Horner in the field at a variety of different trade shows throughout the Midwest and the South. So again, I hope we didn't miss you in Detroit last week, but if we did, get out and see us sometime later this summer or fall. If you want to interact with Horner Automation online, you can do so on our website, also on our YouTube channel where you'll find this and hundreds of other videos, as well as on LinkedIn. Now, next week, we've got a real treat for you. We're going to bring in Ken Janata, who's my colleague of about 30 years or so. He is our R&D manager, so he is the technology expert at Horner. So we're going to talk about all the different technologies that we've gained at Horner Automation for you, our customers, by working on some special applications with some special customers in some other markets that are automation, but are maybe not traditional factory automation. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation, and Ken is going to preview some of the technology that's coming for Horner products later this year, so you won't want to miss it. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, don't hesitate to do so. It doesn't cost anything, and if you choose notifications when you subscribe, you'll be notified every time we go live or every time we post a new video. All right, so until next week, let's all get out there and do some good.